See if I can get Randy in here. See what he's doing. I'm live. Hey guys. Welcome. Good evening. Probably not the best time to go live. It's a little bit late. A lot of my viewers are not on YouTube right now, according to the YouTube algorithms. That's okay. I thought I would jump in here and just see what everybody is up to. Rick Lowe's in the house. Rick, how you doing, man? Good to see your name pop up in the old live chat. It's only 6:30 p.m. in Cali. All right. Perfect timing in Australia. 11:30 a.m. Hi all. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll get started here in a few minutes. If you guys have any immediate questions, throw them my way. I wanted to talk about hearing beyond the room. What does that mean? Listening beyond the room. I want to chat about that tonight. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. A lot over the past couple of days, actually. 10:35 p.m. in Nova Scotia. Rick, that's where you're at? I didn't know that. Hey Ron, have you heard the LSA speakers? They've been in the market for a while now. Just noticed that very few reviews are they bad speakers. I don't know. I haven't spent any time with LSA, so I don't know. I'm not too sure. Subjective question: which subwoofer, Niles? This is from Rob Franklin. Niles SW12 or Klipsch R12SW? Trying to balance my turntable and bass. I am familiar with the Klipsch. I'm not familiar with the Niles. I would be curious as to whether or not. I would be curious as to what the material, the cone material, is of the Niles. I'd be curious about that. Generally speaking, when it comes to subs, all speakers, I prefer paper cone. The Klipsch subs are okay. They're fine. They do have a sound to them. Not my favorite. So I'd be curious as to what the material is for the Niles. And if it's paper cone subwoofer, I'm gonna choose that one without even knowing anything more. Like I'd go with the Niles. Yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. 12:35 p.m. in Japan. Of course, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. 9:36 a.m. in Philippines. Ron, what do you mean by listening outside the room? Yeah, it was a comment that came across my desk. And it was actually a comment towards me, which is interesting. And it was saying that one of the things that I lack, or that I struggle with, is that I don't have the ability to listen beyond the room. Right. And so it's the room that I'm making these. I talk a lot about the room, right? I mean, that's like something that I think is of most importance. And I've been thinking a lot about that. Hearing beyond the room. Well, what does that even mean? And what is meant by that? I think that it's important to understand that all the hard work that goes into lots, all the hard work that goes into any kind of speaker positioning that I talk about, my goal is actually to get you further away from the room. And that's not subjectively speaking, that's not me just saying, I think that's what's happening. No, no. The further you are away from, boundaries, sidewalls, ceiling, um, you're hearing the speaker and you're hearing what that speaker can do. And we start talking about things like soundstage and imaging, and the speaker starts to really reveal itself, open up. It's like a flower just opening up, like, let's see what this thing can really do. And the reason why I've been thinking about this particular comment, um, is I have so many of you guys that reach out to me on a daily basis that need help, with setting up speakers, or actually maybe not even that. You don't even go that far. It's which speaker should I buy because I don't like this speaker, and I usually ask, well, let me see what you got to work with. What are you rocking? What do you have? And what is always or most often sent to me are it's the same picture. It's like the same picture. I can almost predict it at this point of speaker slammed up against the wall. And yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, when I heard that comment referencing me, that I what I struggle with as a reviewer is that I can't hear outside of the room, and that's why I talk about, the room as much as I do, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It's like, no. It's actually backwards from that. Is that what I'm hoping to help you with, is understand that by getting those speakers away from the walls and boundary reinforcements and getting gear out into the room, your speakers can dance, and you're going to hear them stripped down in a way that you can't possibly hear in the event where they're slammed up against walls. And it also it also bleeds into another conversation that I was thinking about, and it has to do with snake oil, cables. It doesn't matter. Throw up the list. It doesn't matter what cable we're talking about. Power cords, interconnect, speaker cables. And what I strive to do whenever I'm talking to really anybody out there is to try to find an understanding as to where they're coming from. And a lot of folks that would say, though, that stuff just doesn't make a difference, it's all hogwash. I keep thinking about this exact same scenario. Speaker slammed up against the wall. The speakers aren't even breathing. You're not able to hear anything that speaker is really capable of doing. And where I think that we can, like, break bread and begin to understand each other is, I think your ears are working fine if you say it's all snake oil and it's all garbage and it's all nonsense. And the reason why I can say that is because, well, I've been there. And in those environments and in those situations, making any changes, and we don't even need to go down the road of snake oil. We really don't. We could even say swap in power amps and preamps and swapping out gear, chasing the dragon of, buying gear after gear, trying to fix something in your system. When the reality is, a lot of these guys, they're not even hearing what their system is able to do. And that breaks my heart. And so it is a it is a passion of mine. It is a passion of mine to try to get people to, you know, it's free. Let's try getting those speakers out on the floor and get them to dance, and let's see what we can do. And so, with the very successful Lots video, and I'm not even saying that like in a bragging way. I'm just establishing the fact that if you go and look at that video and you take a look at all the comments, it won't take you very long to see that there have been some profound moments for a lot of folks that have tried what I've been rambling about for years on my channel. And it's like a light switch. Like, I feel like I'm hearing hi-fi for the first time. Like, this is beyond insane. Like, this is game changing. And yeah, I've been thinking about that. So, I'm way behind on comments. I'll get to you guys in a minute. But Jimmy, to answer your question, what do you mean by listening outside the room? Well, I think that in order to really hear what that speaker is actually doing, what your system is doing, um, I think that it what it involves is trying to eliminate the effects of the room to the best of your ability. And we could even segue this into acoustic treatment, and we should, because that's important, right? Um, but step one is setting things up correctly, right? Giving your speakers a chance to where you can hear the speakers outside of the effects of the room. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking about and pondering is I think that, from my perspective and, you know, with where I'm at least on my journey and helping so many people out, it seems like a lot of people get stuck in a rut with their systems over and over and over again, and they just keep looking for. It's like you're trying to put a band-aid on a gushing wound, and it's like that's not going to work, man. Here you are talking about power chords or what have you, and we have stuff slammed up against walls and weird situations when I can see based on the photo that you have plenty of room to work with, you know? And look, I understand that a lot of folks would say, you can't live like that, Ron. Like, we can't have speakers. Not everybody can have speakers 6 feet into the room. And for the vast majority of my review career and audiophile life, I've been in the same boat. It's only until we moved out to Texas that I have a dedicated room for listening, and that was encouraged by my wife. But prior to that, any of these speakers that I would ever set up, listen to, pull them deep into the room, and then I would have to put them back because we have kids, and kids will knock over speakers and make a mess. So, anyways, if anybody in here wants to continue that conversation, great, we can. This is really just an ask me anything night, kind of just sporadic. I just wanted to jump on here and see what's going on. So let me back up, start answering questions, and try to help you guys out. All right. So here we go. Roof Pizza asks, haven't heard your take on ported versus sealed subs. Apologies if you've covered it. I like sealed myself. If my choices are between ported and sealed, I agree with you. I would do sealed. I think they're a bit more musical, a little bit better choice for listening to music than ported. A step above both of those options for me is open baffle bass. And I've talked about that. You guys probably have listening fatigue from me talking about open baffle. But anyways, that's my thoughts on that. By the way, how is my audio? Let me know down below if I'm coming in a little bit hot. I sound a little bit hot. Let me just double check to make sure I don't have my settings jacked up. I'll be right back. Oh, by the way, yeah, some of you guys are laughing. All right. All right, we should be fine. Scott Baylor asks, how long should one wait to replace speakers? I have a pair of definitive black tower speakers from the early 90s, DR9s, I think. They sound great, but nothing else to compare them with. Scott, I was just waiting to see if you were going to say what I was hoping you were going to say in that, and you did, and that is they sound great. And so guess what? You don't need to replace them. Um, a lot of this journey, I think, is just finding something that you feel that way about, and you don't need to keep throwing pennies at the wind, thinking like, well, maybe I should get a different speaker. If you're already happy, man, then just be happy and play the heck out of those things until they give up the ghost. And that's when you would need to consider replacing them. But if you're happy with them and they're functional and they're working and you're finding joy in them, then I would say just move forward. Keep them going. Yeah. Daniel Willis says, "Hey NRD, just received the Focal Elysia headphone and my iFi hip DAC will be here tomorrow. Thoughts on Focal?" I've heard them at shows, and from what I have heard at the shows, they're a nice sounding speaker. Yeah, yeah, and I'll tell you this much: that hey, we got some super chats in here, Mister Robinson and the Chief. It's with an F, Chief Audio Man. Thanks, guys. Thanks, fellas. I appreciate that. Um, yeah. Anyways, what I was going to say is the hip DAC is all kinds of awesome. It's great. I love that thing. So yeah. Uh, if you guys don't know, Andrew Robinson just turned 40, so he's getting up there. You guys can Amazon him, some warm milk and maybe some knitting supplies. And I think and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that on his birthday, this is a pretty cool present. His channel hit 200,000 subscribers. Yeah. 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 It's really cool. It's been great watching Andrew. It's been amazing to watch Andrew do this. Just you're like, oh, that's a rocket ship up there. Oh no, it's not. It's Andrew Robinson. It's a Rob. And what I appreciate about Andrew is I can promise you this: we would not agree on everything. Like when it comes to some topics and snake oil stuff and getting into like break-in, we're not going to see eye to eye at all. And yet I can have a conversation with the guy. And I think that it just goes to show his heart. It's like, well, we can still talk about it. Like we don't hi-fi doesn't need to be so dang tribal and, slamming doors in faces and you're wrong. We're talking about speakers, man. Like relax a little bit. And I've always appreciated that about good old A-Rob. For sure. Let's see here. Let me back up. Give me a second. All right, here we go. Saw a pair of speakers on the used market, thinking about picking up Eco Direct, high sensitivity, and 11-inch paper cone driver. It's a two-way though. A bit worried about high crossover point of 2.3. No reason to be worried at all, Rick. Here's the thing. When the driver allows it, both drivers, woofer and tweeter, meaning the tweeter can play lower, and the crossover points are going to, blend together after the crossover network is designed, and there's no issues between them shaking hands, then by all means, there are some advantages of crossing lower. But at no point should you be worried about like a number on there, like, oh, 2.3, that's going to be high, so that might be an issue. No, it just depends on how good of a job they did in, that particular network. And we don't know that until we take a look, right? I mean, for me at least, objectively, like if I wanted to see the data, I would have to, set up Clio and do a gated response on it and see how good of a job did they do with shaking hands between the woofer and the tweeter. But don't be worried about 2.3. That's nothing to be worried about. Ron, are you old enough to remember a Texas-based company, Phase Research, from the early 80s? Quick answer is no. Phil Clements was the owner and speaker designer. Nope. Not old enough. Andrew is. Andrew just turned 40, so he probably remembers. I think he's been around since Cars, so He could probably sit by a campfire and share some stories about back in the day when Phil Clements was creating speakers for Phase Research. He's probably got a lot of stories about that. Sean Heisler says, Ron, are you going to Expona? I think so. I got to talk to corporate about that. I got to send that for approval to corporate, see what she says. I don't see why not. I miss the shows. I miss shaking hands with so many of you guys, and I miss running into rooms and knocking over speakers and leaving and laughing. Ha ha. Yeah, I miss that. It's fun. Um, so yeah, I hope so. I hope that I'm able to go to a lot of the shows that are you know popping up now, which is really exciting. Ron, any thoughts on the Soda Total Eclipse motor package with the code? Wow, I don't even know what we're saying here. Okay, hold on. Roadrunner. Okay, that I recognize. Yes, I've used those. That's going to be for speed control for like BPI and stuff like that. They're very good. Actually, I remember way back in the day when I visited VPI, Harry actually had one and he liked it a lot. He's like, "Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's rock solid stable." So, nothing wrong with those at all. They're fine. They're great. Is Holo Audio Maydac the best you have heard? Is that your reference? Now, the answer to that question is yes, twice. Yep, it is. And yep, I do have one now. It is now my reference. So yeah, amazing DAC. Super expensive, but sounds incredible. Is it correct? Is it correct or not? This is from Jeff N, by the way. I got to remember to do that. Jeff N asks, is it correct or not that speakers would sound best outdoors, i.e., no room effect, or are they designed to be in a room and take some advantage of bass reinforcement from the room? No, I mean, if you could test this yourself. You ever take speakers outside and play them? They don't sound very good. Uh, so no, I mean, speakers are truly designed to be played in these environments. That's part of their design, and that's part of the physics and the makeup of literally everything about a speaker, starting from the drivers. So, granted, there are some speakers that are designed and they're designed different for PA use, public address, and outdoor events, rock concerts and things like that. Um, so yeah, but yeah, I mean, the stuff that we're talking about, audiophile stuff, it's designed to be played in a room. So yeah. Is there any better speaker for imaging than the X3 or X5? About to pull the trigger due to the repeated binge watch of your brainwashing videos. Wish he made some dual open baffle 15 inches to go with them. Yeah. I guess it would. That's a good question. That's a damn good question. Is there anything better when it comes to imaging? Well, I'm sure there is. I mean, let's get real. Like if we're just picking one specific thing, is there going to be something better out there with just imaging? Well, I would say probably, but there are some incredible things that those speakers are doing with imaging, right? And on top of that, they do some incredible things that Open Baffle brings to the table. And by the way, that reminds me, if Andrew is still in here, we need to get that guy some Open Baffle stuff to play with if he hasn't yet. I mean, Andrew, Mr. Robinson would surprise you. He's got a lot more experience than folks give him credit for. And I'd be curious if he's dabbled in Open Baffle offerings. And if not, it would be interesting to see his take on it. But nonetheless, with the X series from Spatial, and on a pause, I haven't opened them up since I've been into Texas. I haven't gotten to the point where I can jump back into those and see what the heck's going on. It was a very short honeymoon type experience, like set them up, play them. Holy crap, that piano sounds crazy. Put them back in the box and we're done. But they do some really amazing things, and it is based on their design, which is their dipole open baffle based speakers. And open baffle open baffle speakers. And what I was going to say, my brain got ahead of me, is when it comes to bass, they do some really incredible things. So yeah. Yeah. Hard to say. I will tell you, Chris. Chris Ditch Digger is the one that asked that. I love the sapphires, and it's going to take a lot for the sapphires to be dethroned, right? And it's just my sound. It's like what I'm going for. And so when I get back to the X series, it's going to take a lot for them to dethrone my affections for the sapphires. They're still my tried and true go-to speaker. So, yeah. All right, moving on. Andrew said, I want to skip down and see if he actually got in here. He said, I have many a times open baffle that is. Andrew, you son of a gun. Why have we not talked about open baffle? I'm so curious as to what you think about open baffle and I'm curious as to what you've heard. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let me back up. Let's take a look here. Give me a second. This gets a little crazy. Okay, here we go. And what's an album you recommend for people to get into hi-fi? That's a good question. Here's what I like to do. I like to invite people over to hang out with me, right? Pre-COVID. Let's get real. Friends, Sarah's friends, family, whatever. Anything goes. And I love to cook. Sarah loves to cook. So if you ever hang out with us, we're going to cook you up some really good food. And at some point in the evening, I can't help myself. I start asking about music. I just because I'm passionate about it. Like, what do you like? Like, what kind of you like music? And I've only had one person in the history of this is like, no, I don't like music. And I was like, what is wrong with you? You don't like music? It's like I don't like joy and happiness. I don't like things that just shower me with joy. Like what? Anyways, what I typically do is then, and Sarah's like, here it goes. Here it goes. I'm like, hey, let's after this, after we're done, eating and whatnot, can I just entertain me? And we get them in the listening spot and the whole wackadoo crazy audiophile nonsense. Like they usually sit to the left or the right. And I'm like, no, how dare you? Sit in the middle, relax. And then I play them whatever they like, right? Whatever they already like. And so you asked the question, well, what do I recommend for somebody that wants to get into hi-fi? I recommend what they're already listening to, but I get them in the environment where they're able to at least explore my idea or my flavor of hi-fi ice cream, what I feel is hi-fi. And I just sit back and I wait. And most of the time, we have that moment, they're just like looking at me like, what have you done to my brain, Ron? This is amazing. I'm hearing this. You already know what I was about to say. It's like I'm hearing this for the first time. I'm hearing this song that I've heard a million times for the very first time. So usually what I recommend is just sit down and listen and hang out with me and let's explore music that you already like that maybe you've never really heard in a different light, and that's something that I enjoy. That's something that I do. So yeah, great question. Let's take a look here. Bit of a noob question, but is there any reason I shouldn't use an RCA as a coax cable to my DAC? Seems to work. No, not a noob question, not a bad question. That's perfectly fine. You can totally do that. Explore it, see how it sounds, and if it sounds great to you, then you're done. You're done. Just make sure you upgrade the power cord. I'm kidding. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh my goodness sakes. All right, here we go. We're down to Mr. Robinson's super chat. He says, good evening. Hope you all are doing well this evening. Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate you stopping by, man. Means a lot to me. My speakers are two feet from the wall. If I changed my room around, I would gain a little space, but I would have to walk over cables 90 times a day. And if I have company, they would be as careful. I think that's what you're gonna say. That's from Champer. I get it, man. I get it. And so you're gonna just have to ultimately decide if wherever you have those speakers is great and you're happy with it. Maybe just one night, just try getting them out onto the dance floor a little bit, explore it one night. That is truly how I discovered hi-fi. As I was actually cleaning late at night. Sarah was on vacation doing something, and I was cleaning the house after a week of making a mess of it because she was coming home the next morning, and I had the Anthony Gallo 3.1s, and I pulled them way out into the room because I was vacuuming and I forgot to just put them back, or I was doing something to shut off the vacuum, and I started playing music and I just sat down. And I think I was just one of those moments where I was just in the right spot, put them in the it's just like I heard these in a completely different way. And I was like, wow, it doesn't sound like just the front wall is coming to life. It sounds like the entire room is coming to life in a way. I'm hearing stuff everywhere. And it was just intoxicating. And that for me was the blood in the water. So yeah, maybe one of these nights, just give it a try. Yeah, I'm a bit long-winded, but I try to get to all your comments. Hobbs is in the live chat. Hobbs, what the heck? What the heck? Hobbs is an employee of GR Research and just a kind sweetheart of a gentleman. He came over the other night and he dropped off his Ecstatics. So I'm finally getting a chance of hearing the Ecstatics, which is really exciting. And had a blast. Had a great time hanging out with them. Made some really cool comparisons, and we just had a great time. Cheap Audio Man, $25.01. So Andrew was in here first, $25. Cheap Audio Man, second, $25.01. You guys know who my bestest friend is. My bestest of bestest friends. You guys know. Yeah. Here we go. Guy Tracy says, "Is this a bidding war, Randy?" All right, here we go. This is from Poetry on Plastic. Hey, Ron, great job with the H390 review. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm currently using that amp with the Alta Alyssa and the Harbor 30.2, and everything you said about grip and control is spot on. Yeah. Yep. That, it was so much fun to go from the NAD M33, brilliant amp in so many ways. It's crazy, to the Hagel, where it's like almost like a completely different approach. Like, we don't need all these gadgets and these kids with their Snapchats, and they don't put that in the M33, but you get the idea. We're just going to make this thing a beast. And they did. And grip and control is what you get. It's awesome. It's really cool. All right. Here we go. And the other half of Rondi. I love that. By the way, when I did my little parody of my good pal Randy, who I love to death, people started calling me Rondi. And I was like, nailed it. That is perfect. Perfect. Andrew Robinson, that is, Mr. Robinson, A-Rob, if you know him as well as I do, A-Rob says, you're correct. Quite the birthday gift. And what we're talking about is the guy hits 40 years old, and his channel hits 200,000 subscribers on the same day. It's like just stars align, man. I think Randy made it happen. I think Randy's behind it. I don't know how. He can drive a submarine. I think that's what they do. Randy, is that what they do? They drive the submarine and you like press some buttons and you just drive. Is there a steering wheel and you were the guy that was driving it? I think that's all. It's not that hard. I mean, how hard can it be? But, he's pretty smart and he probably figured out how to make that happen, is what I'm guessing. All right. Andrew Robinson says again, breaking his BS, but it's just a speaker. Amen, Ron. So, yeah, I mean, Yeah, see, there you go. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, we don't need to we can have a conversation. Like, okay, well, my experience has been a little bit different, and that's fine. That's totally fine. So, yeah. Here we go. Simon Brown says, "Do you think open baffle speakers need a big room? If so, what would be the perfect dimension for that room to be?" This question we get a lot, and because of the design of open baffles, so we have sound rating forward and backwards. It does need some room to breathe in order for it to fully propagate when it comes to bass, right? And so, or to propagate correctly, I should say. And so, being able to pull that speaker away from the wall a bit is what's going to give you some deep and meaningful bass, right? And if you slam it up against the wall, it's going to choke it out and you're not going to hear much bass at all. And so you do need, I've heard, Simon, I've heard this thrown around 3 feet or more. That's often like Clayton Shaw from Spatial Audio, Danny Ritchie of GR Research. They would probably start with, you got like, that's the starting point. Um, with anything that I've ever used, open baffle, I try much more than that, And again, this is going to be based on the size of the room. What I would say is this: here is the quickest crash course that I can give you. Whatever your room is, in terms of the depth, divide it into thirds. Put your speakers one third, and then you put your listening spot one third. Try to get some kind of a triangle going, and start there with open baffle and see what happens. And that should give you, you're now getting the most amount of breathing room. I think that room is probably going to allow you for the most part. And just try that and see what happens. Yeah. If everyone agreed, would be boring. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's what I like about the NRD viewers, is it seems like we're all just a little more calm than everybody else. Everybody's talking about snake oil, and we're just like, dude, calm down. It's okay. Relax. Chill out. I like that about you guys. You guys are great. What amp pairs well with the Spatial Audio M3 Triode? I never messed with the Triode. I don't know, Matt. I would actually email Clayton and ask him. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's called the Triode because it's 16 ohms, and I think that it was actually designed for tube use. So I reach out to Clayton, or if anybody else in here happens to know the answer to that question, jump in, help out. Hoyt McGrath says, in the listening test included the M3 Sapphire and the X5, I heard considerably more mid-high frequency detail, but much leaner bass on the X5 compared to the Sapphire. That's possible. Yeah, that's possible. Keep in mind that with the Sapphire, we're dealing with is completely passive, right? So whatever bass you're hearing is what that amp is supplying to it that I was playing. I don't even remember what I was playing in that demo, but um, with the X series, it's a different animal. It's a different beast. And so that amp was just connected passively to the mid-band driver and the tweeter. And so it's a completely different situation, completely different show. And then the sub down below is controlled with a separate plate amplifier. And it's entirely possible that I just didn't have it up enough to your liking, right? But it's one of the strengths of the X series is you can control bass to your liking. You can turn that plate amp up or down, which is really cool. So yeah, keep that in mind. Let's just take a look here. The Sapphire had more tonally rich bass and a smoother mid and top end. I'm wondering whether the X3s have the rich bass that the Sapphires have. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not trying to, squirm away from it. I really don't know because I haven't explored the X series enough, and I need to spend more time with it to be able to answer that question. So I don't know. That's a question mark for me as well. And I intend to find out, and I will find out, and I will let you know. I'll report what I hear. Yeah. What are your thoughts so far on the ELAC Unify reference bookies? And I know the LS50 metas are $500 more, but how do you think they would compare? Um, You know, I can't say right now. The Unify reference bookies, I have them. They are still in a box. I haven't spent much time with them, but what I did hear in them, I certainly appreciated, and it's Andrew doing what Andrew does, and that is delivering us a fantastic speaker for the money. Um, and I would go as far as to say that based on what I heard in a short amount of time, I actually preferred what I was hearing out of the bookies more than the towers, which is very interesting. And so I like them a lot. How do they compare to an LS50 Meta? Two totally different speakers. I think that, um, you know, at a glance, I think you might be able to get, you're going to be able to drop bigger bombs with the ELACs than you are the Metas. The Metas are going to give, I don't know. That's a dang good question. There's a big question mark with that. I personally didn't love the Metas, and I didn't love the original LS50. That's the first time that I've ever spent time with either of those speakers, and when I reviewed the Meta, it was more of like, what are the differences between these 2 speakers? And I didn't think it was just, like, all that jaw-dropping amazing, or I wasn't hearing anything in that speaker that really wowed me. Um, Whereas, and I'm not there yet because I haven't spent enough time with Unify reference, but like with Unify 2.0s, that was a speaker that I connected with. And I was just like, dude, this is doing some stuff that is really impressive. And this is, again, this just comes down to our different experiences and what's going on. And it blew my mind. So I don't know, but I want to say that I have a feeling of those two, I'm probably going to prefer the ELAC more than the Meta. I'd be surprised if I walk away saying I would take a Meta over Unify reference, but I don't know yet. And I'm being honest because I haven't spent much time with it yet. Okay. Let's take a look here. Ron, that's not the arc I remember from the series Arc 2 back in the mid to late 70s. This is the real deal, guys. I don't know how he got all those animals on there, but I mean, Noah's a brilliant guy. So he made it happen. He made it happen. That night when I was shooting that video, you should have seen my wife's face when I got everything set up late at night. It's like, are you going live? I was like, no, I'm gonna do a review. I'm gonna do a review. I got an idea. And I was like, hey, have you have you seen Noah? And she's like, have you been doing crack? What are you talking about? I was like, Noah, like the kids, Noah, Noah. What is happening right now? And so, yeah. And now that she's seen it, she's like, I see what you're doing. It was pretty funny. You did a pretty good job. So, yeah. Ron, thoughts on Andrew Jones leaving ELAC? Can he survive selling his salsa? No. I hope he's got a backup plan. The salsa tastes like ketchup, so I hope he's got a plan B. Andrew, I hope you got a plan B. Being serious, I'm excited to see where he goes. I'm excited to see what he's doing next. I fully expect that it's still in this arena, and if not, I'll be devastated. He's a brilliant designer, great guy. I I can't even begin to tell you guys how meaningful it has been to learn from Andrew the stuff that I've learned, and most of what I've learned is how wrong I've been doing things when it comes to like measurements, and he's the kind of guy that just he knows how to challenge you, like really get you to think and work through things. And um yeah, I'll say this. If I had my dream vision of whatever he's doing next, I would love nothing more than we see Andrew Jones speaker lineup, his own thing, how he wants it, how he just totally free. He's free. You do what you want to do, man. That would be, I don't think that's going to happen, right? But I would love to see his own brand, what he wants, how he wants to do it. That would be kick ass. That would be awesome. Because the salsa thing is not going to work out. I can tell you that much. Stay Brown says, I'm looking to purchase a Yamaha AS1200 for my KLH Model 5 that will arrive someday before the world ends. But I saw a return model AS2100 for the same price as the AS1200. Should I stick with the 1200? Well, if the 2100 is the same price, I think that's a step up, is it not? I'm pretty sure. I mean, the 2100 is that's a badass integrated amplifier. I personally, I think that I would be going for the returned 2100 myself, to be honest with you. Ron, early impressions on the Holo Audio Spring 3. I freaking love it. I love it. I'm so excited to talk about the Spring 3, and that reminds me, I need to get back to. Sorry, this is like a whole sidebar conversation. Before I moved, I was sent a Spring 2 by one of the viewers out there, and super awesome guy. And he just emailed me the other day. And he's like, "Hey, Ron, are you going to review that? Did you steal my Spring 2?" No, I didn't. I still have it. And now that the Spring 3 is in possession, I'm actually going to talk about all three. I'm going to do Maydak, Spring 2, Spring 3, and talk about all the differences. And the reason why I think it's still relevant to talk about Spring 2 is I know that a lot of guys are going to be ditching their Spring 2s to get the Spring 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through what are you getting if you do that and whether or not that's a big deal. But to answer your question very, very briefly, I love the Spring 3 and the fact that they have tucked in DNA from Serene. It's now got a built-in preamp. You have preamp connectivity built into the DAC. It's awesome. It's really cool. I love it. Yeah. Cheap Audio Man. It's over Halloween, Ronald. Expona, that is. All right. Well, then we're gonna be dressing up. That's the deal. So look for Randy and I. We're gonna be dressed up. A Rob is gonna be there. It'll be the three amigos. And yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun. Speaking of corporate, how is Cactus and Kindness doing, especially with the kiddos? Hey, true voice of reason. Thank you so much for bringing that up. My wife is doing fantastic. We have settled into Texas and we love it here. It's been freaking amazing. And the weather's been weird. I feel like everybody lies about Texas because they want to keep people away from the state. It's like, oh, it's just hot as hell. You're going to hate it. We're dying over here. And we get here and it's just been nothing but rain and like cool weather until this week. And it got really hot. And I was like, oh, they weren't lying. Okay. But no, in all seriousness, it's been really nice and really amazing. And she's been doing great. And thank you for asking about the kiddos. They're all doing fantastic. So really kind of you to remember that. All right. Let's take a look here. Give me a second. Let me back up. It just freaked out on me. Oh, these things. These things freak out on us. I'm not doing a good job here. Give me a minute. Wow, there's a lot of comments in here. I just realized how far behind I am. I need to speed up. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Okay. I think we're there. I think we're there. No, I'm not. Okay, I'm there. Sorry, guys. That was a mess. Okay. Have you heard the chord Dave? No, I have not. I'm gonna try to speed up, guys. Mark Wilson asks, "Hey, Ron, Randy, and Andrew. Ron, how do I break in a new amp? Yes, this may irk Andrew, but such is life. It's not gonna irk him. He's just gonna think you're crazy, which you probably are. But so am I. Yeah, I do burn-in amps, and the way that I do is I just let them play, and you don't need to give them a lot of juice. You're not breaking in speakers. You're breaking in the amp itself, right? And so I'll start up Title or whatever, create a playlist that just goes on forever. I use Rune that just starts playing song after song. I turn on the amplifier, I send over some juice to everything, make sure everything's connected. Yeah, I got music, okay, and then I just turn it down, and I just let it play, and I just let it keep playing and playing and playing and playing, and then a week down the road, I turn it back up, and I'm like, "Oh, much better," and right now Andrew's like, "This guy's so full of it. He's so full of it." And I probably am, but no, I really do think that I really think it makes a difference. That's my experience so far. Not always, but usually does. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I do it. Um, Andrew Robinson, step 1, plug it in. Step 2, turn it on. Step 3, play. That's Andrew's remarks. And so my tomfoolery was the way that I do it, and that's the way Andrew does it. And you know what? If you like what you hear, that's all that matters. Like that's the goal, right? So if you even if you turn on an amp like right out of the box, fresh out of the box, you're like, "Wow!" Well, then that's a touchdown. Yeah. And if you don't, then you burn it in for 200 hours. Oh my goodness sakes. Hey Ron, you touched manufacturer relationships a little in the last R&R podcast. This is from John Evans. Do you ever feel like you should put a little distance between you and Danny? Oh, that's a good question. When you review his stuff, my first thought is that you are going to be biased AF. Um, yeah, I think it's fair. I think that's fair. And I always look inwards and I try to think about being a responsible reviewer and what that means. And I'm friends with Danny. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's the kind of guy that I hang out with. And I'm gonna answer it like this. I think that I think that depending on the person, right? We're getting into like the makeup of the person. I think some people would really have a very difficult time of still being honest. Like, ooh, I don't want to hurt Danny's feelings. I don't want to say something that would rub him the wrong way. And there's that. Um, that's not me. And it's not that I don't want to hurt his feelings. That has nothing to do with it. I just look at it from a different angle, is in that we've built trust over time. And I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, right? I'm gonna say it like it is. I'm gonna tell him exactly how I hear it and what I feel, and that's that. And if there's anything in there that, oh, well, then I want you to get better. And it's because I care about you. I want you to get better. It's because there's trust built that I want to see GR research grow. I want you to improve. I don't want you to fail. Like that's the last thing that I want you to do. I want you to get better. And so at least that's how I feel about it. But at the same time, I try to be self-aware. And so I think it's just a matter of picking your battles. Like when I did the mini review, I thought, if I just do a mini review as me, I don't know. And so I decided to do it as Randy. And, that I think kind of freed me up a little bit, you know, and it's like, I'm just going to have some fun. But make no mistake, just because that was kind of like a diversion of, I'm going to do this as Randy, everything that I said in that review is exactly how I feel. And if you listen to what I had to say, it wasn't all flowers. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I said it like it is. And that is, Danny has said many times he doesn't feel like, well, he says that it does sound like an aluminum drivers, but it doesn't really suffer from, the sound of a lot of aluminum drivers. And I'm like, no, it still sounds like aluminum drivers. It still does to me. Lack of bass, sounds thin with male vocals. Like these are all criticisms that I did say in the review, you know? So, John, I think it's a fair question. And it's something that I think about a lot and I stress about it. Like, so I want you to know that I feel your question. I understand it. I understand the concerns. Um, but getting back to my main point that I want to make is same thing would go with like spatial audio. I want him to succeed. And so if I need to say something to get you to succeed and to get better and to improve, then damn it, I'm going to say it, and let the chips fall wherever they're going to fall. It's because I care about what you're doing. There's no point in me just, it's a unicorn, it's fantastic. And then you guys all get it because you trust me and you're like, it's not a unicorn, it's a donkey with like a carrot taped onto its head, Ron. What are you doing? It's like I'm out of a job then. And so try to be honest, and tell the truth and tell it like it is. So really great question. That was a fun question to answer. That was a good one. Thank you. I appreciate that, John. All right, here we go. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm a little late. Michael Walker. Andrew, I hope you and your wife are doing well after the distasteful actions last week. I'm not going to rehash that. I left a community post. I left a response to Andrew's community post about that incident, and it's a shame, and it's not okay. It's not cool. It's not funny. I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I appreciate Michael you asking about that, and I know that's out of concern, and that's nice of you. So yeah. All right, here we go. Let's see here. Will you ever review the Cambridge Audio Edge? Sure. Yeah, I could probably make that happen. Yeah. Rob Caputo says, what do you think of the Martin Logan XI60s? I actually like the XI series. The XI series quite a bit. AMTs, that is something that Andrew and I are going to be able to agree on because I've watched one of his reviews where he's like, I don't like AMTs. And guess what? I don't either. They always sound, and that's weird. That's not something artificial, something wonky about AMTs. And there have been some Martin Logans that I've heard in the XI series is if I'm thinking of the right speaker, that's one of them where I was like, yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. All right. It's not too bad. Run along, kid. Go be an AMT. That's how I feel about them. So yeah. Andrew Robinson, I've heard a few Deckware open baffles and I forgot the other brand. Of course, one might consider Magnapan an open baffle of sorts. Yeah, absolutely, which I've owned many. Ooh, yeah, dipole. Yeah, man. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's freaking cool, man. I would love for you to check out Andrew. We're only 5 hours away, bro. I want you to hear some open baffle stuff that I really like and see what you think. It'd be fun, man. Neil Young Harvest, great album. Michael Walker, you are invited to my house anytime you want, day or night. You can literally show up in the middle of the night. My wife is going to freak out, but I won't. I'll be like, it's just Michael. He likes Neil Young. He's invited. Yeah, love Neil Young. Harvest, great album. Totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. At Andrew, great. Hope to catch you. The happy birthday and he didn't happen. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I didn't know about Mr. Robinson is I guess that he plays piano, which is freaking rad. And I think that was a birthday gift from Christy, his wife. He got this totally killer. Reminded me of my childhood. My mama Louise, she passed away from cancer a long time ago, but she had an old piano just like that, and every morning, I just remember piano being played, and it's just like, that's childhood. That was so cool. So yeah. Andrew Robinson, master cake decorator, plays the piano. He knows his way around a table saw. I can tell you that. I can tell you that with certainty. So yeah. All right, let's take a look here. Anything Radiohead from OK Computer on sounds fantastic. That's true. Yeah. I hated OK Computer when it came out, and then I repented for my foolish ways and came back to it. I was like, okay, I was an idiot. This is an amazing album. And I to this day, I love that album. Intellectual People Podcast. If you cook me tasty food, we can sit there all night and subjectively love any speaker. Oh man, touche. Hey, you know what? That's the trick. Is I give you a bunch of ribs and a lot of beer, a lot of Paps, Blue Ribbon. I'm like, let's try some power chords. And like, that sounds good, man. Let's just do it. Just keep feeding me more ribs, And that's what I do. And and I taped the whole thing. I'm like, see, he agrees with me. Power chords, that's where it's at. Oh my goodness sakes. Let's see. So we have a clarification. So Andrew Robinson says, yes, I play piano and saxophones, and he knows his way around a table saw. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Scrolling down, got a couple of random comments. No questions coming down. Okay, here we go. Cheap Audio Man jumps in and says, someone asked about comparing the LS50 Meta to versus the Unify reference. Yeah, Randy, go. Go. Randy's the guy to talk to. He won't shut up about bookies. He's calling me like day and night talking about bookies, and he keeps talking about the Unify reference. So that would be the guy that you would want to ask because he spent a lot of time with the reference. So I'd be curious to see what he thinks there. JC says, I know the room is extremely important, but how much do room dimensions matter versus room shape, i.e., smaller room that's rectangular versus larger L-shaped room? They both matter. And I don't know if I would try to pretend that I know so much that I would declare one is more important than the other. I think both are very important. But I see where you're going. I feel like that would be just a circle conversation as to which one is more important. When we start talking about, like square rooms, perfectly square rooms, that can be challenging. That can be challenging. And one tip that I learned by watching this guy back in the day, Rob happens to be in here. He gave a very clever trick as to how to deal with placement in a very small room, like a bedroom, square room. And I've seen this. And as soon as I saw that video, I was like, yeah, dang it. I should have. I'm still in that. I'm going to talk about that in the future on a live stream. And I'm going to do it right now. Listen to it in the corner. So you just, instead of straight up at the wall, just position yourself to where listening into the corner of the room. Try that because then you're at least going to get some depth. You're going to get that bowling alley depth in the soundstage. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's worth trying. So, yeah. Yep. The real reason Ron loves Open Baffle is it forces people to pull speakers into the room. It's true. You got me. Eagles are awesome. Love the review of the H390. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Totally cool. M33 ZZZ falling asleep. That's from Andrew Robinson. He's falling asleep when he's talking about the M33. Cheap Audio Man. I worked in the engine room. That's from Cheap Audio Man. So he didn't steer the submarine steering wheel. He was working in the engine room. It's where he gets his guns. You ever seen Cheap Audio Man's guns? They're lethal. They'll get you. All right, here we go. You guys are talking to each other. All right, here we go. Tommy Kehoe is asking, hey, Ron, any experience with the Pass Labs integrated 250 or any Pass Labs integrated amps? What's your feelings about the sound as I'm considering the INT 250? I think they're freaking amazing. I'm not even going to be shy about it. I think that those amps, look, they're crazy expensive, right? Let's get that part out of the way. But having spent actual time with some past lab amps, and I have in the past, it's been a while, but real time listening to them in my room, man, wow, they're such a beautiful sounding amplifier. I mean, they really are. It's similar to like the Heagles sound, but I would say that there is more. I just did it. See my Randy? I'm gonna get into character here. I got to break out. Okay. More air, a little bit more detail, a little bit more extension, more fireworks. Where with the Heagle, it's just smooth. It's like everything is just we're not gonna go crazy with all that hyper detail. Whereas I think that the past, even though I wouldn't ever say that any of those are a detail centric, meaning it's detail, detail, detail. We're trying to get your attention. No, no, no. It's there, and it's a bit more of it than what I mentioned in the Hegel review. But there, let me tell you something, man. Tommy, you're not making a mistake. Uh, Highly recommended. Beautiful sounding amplifiers, and you're going to be happy. They're incredible. So yeah. Coleman Rose. Hi, Ron. I thought I heard you intimate during a live chat that you are not a fan of or not interested in reviewing Tecton speakers. Am I wrong about this? If not, I'm curious why you aren't a fan. Um, I think that was in the last live stream, and somebody just briefly. I think I was going through spitballing through comments, and somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to review? What about reviewing this or reviewing that?" And I saw Tecton. I was like, "Nah, moving on." The truth is, I would be open to reviewing anything from Tecton, but I don't think that is a realistic possibility. I'm not going to get into it. There's a lot of reasons why I'm not going to get into it, but um, I'm going to leave it at that. It's just not in the cards for New Record Day. So I would say this. Um, no, I'm not even going to say that. Shelf it. That's it. Yeah, we're moving on. Uh, okay, here we go. Ted Piontek says, Ron, I have the Hegel H390 and using the Legacy Focus and a pairing JBL L300, I can tell you that this amp can drive lots of woofers with authority. Just love this amp. Ted, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. I mean, when I plop that H390 down, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, that's all you got. I mean, it's such a, it is a prize fighter. It really is, man. Just hits like a truck. So yeah. Let's take a look here. iTush says why there is no love for the Cambridge Audio Edge in QW. I don't know, iTush. I think this might be the first time that I've heard it mentioned in a live stream. So maybe I'm just missing the boat on whether or not that's. I don't even know what that is. Is it a DAC? Is it an amplifier? Like what is the Cambridge Audio Edge? I'm curious. I don't know. Here we go. Pumpkin Meerkat. Ron, have you or will you check out any of the Lee Audio Open Baffle speakers, mostly do-it-yourself cabinet stuff for their drivers? But Deckware sells them on their site as completed speakers, I believe as well. Thanks. Yes. Yes and yes. I actually have them already. Yeah. No, I already have their drivers already. I have a couple of their subs and some full rangers that I requested a long time ago. And it was just right before we moved, and I'll get to it. We'll be talking about Lee Audio here pretty soon. Andrew Robinson says, at Hayes Cha, there is virtually no difference between CD and streaming high res music once you account for discrepancies in SPL between sources. So that's what Andrew says. He's crazy. That A Rob can be a real handful. When I started exploring the Maydac and I started paying attention to like doing back to back listening to rip CDs versus high res streaming, Koba's title. I felt, and I still feel to this day, that for the things that I'm at least listening to, we're getting past like tone. Like, how's the bass on that track? How's the mid range? How's the top? No, I'm not. I'm not even. I'm not. I'm so not even listening to that. I'm pulling speakers out into the room and I'm trying to listen to, yeah, the time domain. This crazy stuff that it feels like I've just made up words and I haven't. Well, maybe I have. Harmonic decay, um, what things sound like in that room as they diminish, right? The time domain. there's stuff in there, content in there, information in there that it was at least my experience and still is to this day that at least for this old cowboy, I prefer the sound of just ripped CDs versus streaming. And I would say that while consistently I do feel that way, it's not as consistently as a big of a deal. And what I mean by that is there are times where I'm doing a comparison and I'm doing a like for like scenario, and I'm like, I don't blindfolded. No way. I can't tell much of a difference here. But then there are some where I'm like, okay, well, I listen for that and just pay attention to it. Switch. It's not as obvious, is it? I mean, these are the kind of things that I start thinking in my head when I start doing those comparisons. But again, yeah, could come down to what you're listening for, very well. Brent in the house, Brent Lavasia. I probably just screwed up your last name. I'm sorry, Brent. Good to have you, man. The M3 has a bigger woofer than the X5. However, what I discovered is that with the benchmark monoblocks is that they give the bass super fast punch, even though the bass woofer on the X5 is active. That's interesting, Brent. That's cool. And by the way, Brent, Benchmark is sending me those amps. So I'll be checking those out here pretty soon. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, and if somebody was curious as to what SPL is from above, sound pressure level. Hobbs, thank you for jumping in and saving that. I appreciate that, man. Let's take a look here. Michael Walker says, Andrew, the NAD M33 integrated amplifier review was awesome. Thanks. Yes. Andrew Robinson, A Rob. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Ooh. Okay, hang on. It just freaked out on me. Let me just back up a little bit. Give me just a minute. Hold tight, guys. Just give me a second here. Hold tight. Man, lots of comments in here. Holy cow. You guys are on. How many do we have in here? 177? You guys are on fire tonight. So, what happens, at least for me, is that the comments shoot down. I got to back all the way up to where I was, figure out where I was before so I'm not missing any of your guys' questions. Okay, here we are. I'm back. All right. Itouche, is it true Andrew Jones will design the PS audio loudspeakers? I have no idea if that is true. No clue. That's from Itouche. I don't know. Andrew Robinson talking about, it looks like turntables. He says, if you can get the 20, oh no, he's talking about those Yamaha receivers. If you can get the 2100 for the price of 1200, go 2100. There you go. There you go. You have the smartest reviewer on YouTube and the other guy telling you, get the 2100. See what I just did there? Wait, which one is which? I'll let you guys guess. Oh my goodness sakes. Glad to see the Holo Audio Kitsu Phono Stage front and center. Martin, my friend, let me tell you something. That thing sounds very tasty. Very tasty. It is beautiful. Andrew Jones may go to PS Audio. Laugh out loud, joking. I'm sure they will get too many offers. Okay, yeah. Huh. That's the first time I've heard that. That'd be interesting. Todd asks, any thoughts on the following three amps? SMSL VMA1 Class A amp. I have it. I'm not all that impressed, so let me get that out of the way first. A Relic wireless amplifier A50 Plus or Deckware Zen Triode amplifier. Todd, are you messing with us? It's like, what? What? I mean, very different amps. Class A, we have Is the Arylic wireless amplifier A50 plus? That's got to be Class D. And then we have a Deckware Zen Triode amplifier. Todd, a lot of that is going to be a longer conversation. It's going to come down to your speaker, what you're doing with it, speakers, and what you're doing with them, what your room looks like, sensitivity. Of those, I would be taking the Deckware and running away from you, Todd. I'd run away from you, Todd. Leave me alone. Oh my goodness sakes. Martin says, seriously considering the next Grado X phones. Will let you know about the upgrade once I do. Martin, please do. I'll be curious, man. Absolutely. Cheap Audio Man. This is his recommendation when it comes to breaking in an amplifier. Throw the amp down a flight of stairs for proper break in. There you have it, folks. There you have it. That's how you properly break it in. All right, let's see here. Andrew Robinson says, if you don't listen to an amp right out of the box and listen to it honestly without putting the thought of breaking in your mind, there is no way to tell how it changed, if it changed at all. I don't know, Andrew. I don't know about that, buddy. I don't know. It's a question mark. I feel otherwise. I feel like I've heard some changes, and not always, not always, but I'm. This is what I like about this kind of conversation is like my experience has been a little bit different, but there's room for you at my table. We can talk about that. Let's go listen to some music. Let's go try it. Let's see if we can figure this out by listening and hanging out. Yeah, yeah. Michael Ping asks, are you going to be reviewing the KLH Model 5 speakers? Yes, I am. I don't know when it's going to happen. As soon as I saw Andrew's review of the Model 5, I got insanely jealous. I was like, oh, I'm Andrew Robinson with my perfect hair, my Model 5s. That's how I got my perfect hair, my tats. Ron doesn't have any tats because he's a little girl. He'd be scared to get tats. I got a tattoo. I'm not scared. Yeah, no. I am. I am going to be checking out the Model 5. I don't know when it's going to be. I think they're just having like supply issues or something like that is what the deal is, and so it's just a matter of getting them. But yeah, they've already told me, yeah, we'd love to send one to you and check it out. So that'll be down the road at some point. Brent says, however, with my Holo Audio Maydaq, it sounded sibilant and harsh out of the box and took 200 hours to stop sounding that way, to sound analog and smooth. Brent, that almost word for word has exactly been my experience with my new Holo Audio Maydaq, because the one that I had reviewed was already had a lot of time on it, I should say, and mine didn't. And immediately, it didn't sound like the Maydaq that I remember reviewing. I was like, ew, okay. All right, let's just spend some time with this thing. And Danny heard it initially, and he's like, yeah, voices sound forward, man. They sound like something's going on with this thing. And we let it play for a good week before we went back to it. He had it at his place, and he listened to it for a full week. And he called me one night. He's like, dude, you need to get over here and listen to this thing. It's coming around. And within minutes, I was like, yeah, this sounds smoother. It's just easier to listen to. And that was my experience. And so that is my story, that's exactly what happened with me, is that specifically with female vocals, Brent, is where we noticed it is if you turn it up, female vocals just start getting like, it's like, whoa, relax, and they just started to smooth out, and it got much better. So yeah, started to sound like the Maydaq that I fell in love with. Let's see here. Wait, looking for another question here. Give me just a minute. Jose Santiago Ortiz. Jose says, I don't think so, Andrew. This is electronics design to do signals as new sometimes get slow and not good sound reproduction. The way mean to do over time get flexible. I'm not sure what you mean there, Jose. Let's take a look here. Ted Challenged says, "Hey Ron, we know Danny is busy, but could you send him the ELAC Unify U-by-52 to take a look at upgrades?" I don't know if I would do that, to be honest with you. I'm not one of Danny's customers in that sense. And to be frank with you, I like the UB52s as they are. So I wouldn't do that. And no, that isn't me like that isn't me saying I don't respect what Danny does. I do respect what Danny does, and that's a whole other conversation. We can talk about that. And some people don't, and that's okay. Like we can have that conversation, and maybe we can bridge this gap of understanding. If you don't feel like what he does is okay, but I don't feel like that's my job. I'm a reviewer, and when I get in something like the UB52s, I listen to them as is because that's what was sent to me. I'm not going to be like, "Hey, Danny, can you upgrade these?" I'm not going to do that. It's just not what I'm going to do. What would do maybe is if there was a speaker that I loved, right, and I bought it, right after review. I'm buying this thing. I want it. Pack it up. I very well would consider going to Danny and saying, "Can we take a look at this thing together and see is there any improvements that can be made on it?" So I already love it, and that would just be for me, right? Silent, not on YouTube. It'd be just for me. That's something I would consider doing. So that's my feelings on that. Might change tomorrow, but that's my feelings as of right now. Let's take a look here. John Evans, that's why I'm here to ask the hard questions. Thanks for the reply, Ron. You're welcome, John. Anytime. I won't squirm away from the hard questions. They keep me honest. So, yeah. Let's see here. Oil Cooled says, "I'm struggling to find a pair of non-fatiguing compact desktop speakers to pair with the Deckware Zen Triode and Rail T0. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated." I'm drawing a blank right off the bat. That's going to be high sensitivity desktop style speakers. And it's just because it's not my arena. I don't spend a whole lot of time checking out those speakers. So, Andrew, if you're still here, you're my lifeline. Same thing with you, Randy, lifeline. What would you recommend as a high sensitivity desktop speaker that is non-fatiguing? I have a feeling that Randy might say Wharfdale is what I don't know exactly which Wharfdale, but I have a feeling that's what he's gonna say. All right, here we go. Another question from BAD99 or BAD99. Ron, thoughts on the Folsom chip amp? I think they're awesome. I've spent time with both of the Folsom designs, the lower wattage design chip amp that he does, and then the more powerful chip amp, and they're both incredible. They're both fantastic, and I highly recommend them for sure. They're really good. Michael Walker, Ron, any ideas about getting rid sympathetic resonance in an old trailer? I feel like I'm missing a joke. Is there a joke in there, Michael, that I'm not? Am I getting too tired to figure that one out? It's been an hour and 23 minutes, so we're going to finish up here pretty soon. I feel like that was a joke that I missed. Ron, how do you feel? This is from Kyle. How do you feel brick fireplaces affect acoustics? I've got one on the sidewall. So do I. They are going to affect the acoustics, and depending on where your speakers are placed, here's what I did. Let me tell you what I did. And I'll be talking about this when I release my video in 3 years, where I talk about what it was like moving into the home, and I run you through the whole listening space and all that. I'm kidding. It's not going to be 3 years. It'll be like 2.5. I built diffusers on stands, modular, to where I can slide them wherever I want. and you'll see how I did it. And it was very easy to do. And that allowed me to experiment because I had the same question that you have is how is that going to affect me? And a fireplace is going to affect you in two different ways. There's going to be the sidewall reflection off the fireplace, obviously. So if you have a straight wall and then you have some jagged rock, I mean that's going to do something to the horizontal off axis, right? Hitting that sidewall. First reflection, second reflection, depending on where it is. That's going to do something. So that's going to affect it. I'm not saying in a negative or positive way. I'm saying it's going to do something. But then on top of that, when it comes to deep bass, you have a giant port right there, right? Big old giant fireplace port. And so that can have some effects on what you're hearing as well. And there's only so much that you can realistically do for that. In the last house, we had a fireplace front and center, and that had much more of an effect on bass than this house where I have a fireplace just to the right of me. So if I look, literally, I look to the right and I'm looking at the fireplace. It's just right there. And I don't think that I hear much of a negative impact on bass. Whereas with the other house, I did. I could hear this sounds weird when it comes to bass. And so what I did is I built a trap, right? Weekend project, 2x4s, get some Owens Corning 703, get that sucker as thick as you can to where it just slides right in, and you've built a bass trap, right? I hate the term bass trap because you're not trapping bass, but you're gonna help. You're gonna help with some of the absorption there. So yeah. Anyways, WA asks, "Do you and Cheap Audio Man plan to move in together?" Yes, absolutely. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You know, Sarah can figure it out. I mean, the garage isn't that. It doesn't get that hot out there. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. All right, let's see here. Chris Watson asked, "What is the approximate price point where the law of diminishing returns kick in for key pieces of kit, DAC, amps, speakers, etc.?" That's a long conversation. It kind of depends, man. You know, I mean, if we're talking about stuff that you just go out and buy, my answer would be different than stuff that you make, right? If you're talking about do it yourself, well, that's a completely different ball game than, going out and just buying speakers. And even then, and Randy and I actually did a podcast where we talked about diminishing returns. And to be honest with you, I just don't feel like it really exists in the way that you would think that it exists with hi-fi, in that it's kind of all over the map, that you can literally waste all of your money on a really expensive speaker that sucks, or you could buy a really cheap speaker that you think is going to suck and it's actually really, really good. And it can go the other way. It's just all over the place. 1 second here. Hey, babe. My wife's feet are freezing and she came in here to thaw out. All right, cool. I'll be in soon. Both of them have been up? Okay. You want to put them on Craigslist? We're putting the kids. Anybody want some kids? All right. Good night. All right. Okay, here we go. So what I was saying is, for me, I don't feel like the law of diminishing returns, it exists in the way that you would think it exists in the realm of hi-fi. I think it's just all over the map. And that's my short answer. We talked about it. Randy and I did for like an hour. We talked about it in detail. So yeah. Raven Audio Nighthawk, have you ever reviewed this tube amp? No, I have not. No, I have not. Nick Pantazzi, if I'm saying it, Pantazzi. Ron, any experience, thoughts with Dawn Sax and tubes for hi-fi preamps, phonos? No, Nick, but I've heard nothing but good things of Dawn Sax. So I haven't personally experienced it, but a lot of the dudes and dudettes that I trust, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Seems like it's good stuff. So there we go. Let's see here. Odabus71 says, have you heard any of the other Hegel integrated lines other than the 390? Do you think that they're all pretty much the same sound signature? If you go back to my review and then go down to the description box and click on the link where Anders from Hegel and I did like a little interview podcast type thing, you should do that because he answers that question. And it was cool to hear his take on that. The short of it is they do all have the Hegel sound, but it's not that simple. So go and check out that video. I think it'll be interesting to you. So there you go. Yeah. I'm gonna break my own rules. So I'm gonna skip past some questions of stuff that the answer is either no or I haven't heard it. So I'm apologizing. I try to get every single question that I can. And I'm gonna just emphasize the ones that I can and that I know because we're gonna be closing up shop here pretty soon. We got a super chat from Ryan William. Thank you so much. It says, what is a euphonious DAC 2K for first watt J2 Clips Fortes? Euphoric. I think that's maybe what you're looking for. I loved that Lampezator DAC that I reviewed that has a tube output stage. The Amber 3 DAC. And I think it's around that price point, maybe a little bit higher, maybe fine when used. And I felt like, in fact, that word is the word that I used in the review is there's something euphoric about it. And it just is very expressive and it's painting with some pretty colors. So that would be one that I would consider to check out. Let's take a look here. Give me just a second. Oh my goodness sakes, there are so many questions here. All right, let me back up. Let's see here. Super. What the heck happened? We can see if you. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. Cheap audio, man. Nick says, I absolutely love my Tecton Pendragons. That's awesome, Nick. I'm glad you like them. I hope things eventually work out with them. Both you and Eric are good people. That's great, man. Very cool. Red Book Martin says, Martin, I'm going to get your name wrong. Tusane? I don't know. Martin, help me, buddy. Red Book CDs win over streaming in dynamics and timing. There we go. There we go. Another opinion. At Super Dougie M, we're all here for Ron this evening. Andrew Robinson, you're a trooper. You're a gentleman. You're a scholar. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Ron, are you going to Expona? I hope so. I hope so. I had to talk to corporate. She's going to bed for the night, but I'll chat with her tomorrow. I'll wake her up with some coffee and be like, honey, can I go mess with audio equipment in Chicago? I'll see what happens. I'll see what happens. Nick says, Ron, your impression of Randy was absolutely hysterical. So perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I had a blast doing it. My favorite part was making the noises. It's just like the most, I love it when he makes noises in his reviews. I'm just like, I just want to hug this guy. I just love him to death. And it's so ridiculous. Oh my gosh. And his dumb face. All right, guys. Andrew Robinson is done for the night. Good night, Andrew. Appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Yeah, I loved your Cheap Audio Man video. That was a classic. Thank you. Just catch up. We got some super chats. Chris, Ditch Digger, thank you so much. Martin, grab Randy's cup of coffee. Thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate that. Really, really cool of you. I will do that. I will do that. Chris, huge super chat down here. Thank you so much. Thanks for your response and great reviews. I'll make sure to mention you when I buy the X5s. Well, congratulations. That is awesome. Um, I don't see any other questions that are really honestly standing out. Brent, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate that, man. Means a lot. Hey, Ron, ELAC Unify 2.0 or Emotiva T2 Plus. Totally different sounding speakers if you want something that's going to be a bit more balanced in response, something that you can listen to on axis without it ripping off your head, go with the Unify 2.0s. If you want something to rip off your head, then go with the T2 Plus. And if you don't like the idea that it's going to rip off your head, just make sure that you have them face forward into the room and you'll be fine. Hey Ron, Exotica Extreme versus Wilson Audio. I would take the Exoticas and the Extremes. And no, that's not just because Danny's my friend. It's because how I honestly feel. I feel like there's more value there, and they're going to do things that no Wilson Audio, no matter how expensive it is, that no Wilson Audio can do. It's just a different beast, and I love it. It's great. So yeah. All right, let's see here. I'm scooting up ahead. You guys are talking to each other, answering each other's questions. Yo, what speakers do you recommend for the shit audio ager monos? Budget 6K top. I like them to grow with my system. Man, that's a big question. With those, my favorite combo to this day, when I played that shit stack with those pair of agers, is the Sapphires. Favorite. I haven't found anything better than that, so that's what I would recommend. I'd recommend the Sapphires. I felt like that combo. I did a rig versus rig back in the day, and you guys saw all that were watching me at that time. Dude, that shit audio stack was legit, totally legit with Sapphires. Totally legit, totally awesome. Let me just see if there's anything else in here. I might be calling it a night here in just a minute. Dude, Ted, thank you so much. Another big super chat in here from Ted coming in. Ron and Randy, the ribs and beer is on me. Dude, Ted, you are awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Michael Walker, Ron, we are like moss to your flame. Keep it glowing. Thanks for not talking down to us. I always feel like I am on the couch talking to an old friend listening to tunes. Man, that's what it's all about. I'm not interested in talking down to anybody. And for me, it's like wherever you're at on your journey, I don't give a rat's rear end, man. I'm not going to judge you if you got a sound bar. I mean, I know that Randy's got a sound bar, and that's his reference. And I'm like, hey, man, I love you because I love you. You got nothing to prove. And with a lot of you guys that reach out to me, ask me for help. Make no mistake, I will never judge you. I'll only give you ideas, things to try. But it always comes with the same disclaimer that we've been talking about tonight, which is nothing should ever get in the way of your subjective enjoyment of your system. Nothing should ever get in the way of that. And if you find happiness and joy, if you're listening to music and you're turning it up and you're just having a blast, then you've arrived. You've arrived. And now you can just help others find that, We live in such a weird, fast-paced world, and just distraction after distraction. And, you go to Instagram and it's telling you who, all these things that you should be that you're not, and you just inundated with information. And what I've always appreciated about just putting on a record or putting on a pair of headphones is it just reminds you of the simple joys in life. It's like usually that's my reset button. Puts me into a different mindset, a different frame of mind of like, I've been blessed with a great family, beautiful wife, a home, shelter. Everything is going to be just fine. And so, not to wax poetic or anything like that, but um, yeah, Michael, that's what it's all about, man. I'm not interested in talking down to anybody. And I just want to help you guys out and make the right decisions, regardless of your budget, how crazy you want to get with this stuff, whether you want to talk to me about getting power cords or speaker placement or, the cheapest Class D amp that Amazon offers. I just want to help. All right. Anyways, I think I'm going to finish with that. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you so much for, um, man, 8 years. 8 years I've been doing this, and I remember the first time that I sat in front of a computer and I just recorded straight onto the built-in app. 8 years. Thank you guys. I appreciate you all. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys in the next video.